And this showdown we're seeing is Representative Leonard Lance, Republican of New Jersey, and a member of the more moderate Tuesday group. Nice to have you here. Let me just begin with this, Congressman. I kept hearing that Senator Schumer statement, which is basically saying, good riddance. I'm glad he's not trying to get funding right now for this. As a Republican, do you feel the same way?
I think that we should continue to make sure government operates. I've never favored a shutdown, but I think there might be some funding for border security that's different from
but for the wall specifically, are you happy to see this retreat from the president on the funding right now for it?
I want to make sure, Poppy, that government continues to stay open and border security, but not necessarily funding for the wall itself.
Are you supportive of the notion of a border wall at all? I mean, you have toured the southern border before, and this is something you felt, I think, isn't completely necessary.
I don't think it's necessary all 2,200 miles, John, and perhaps there are places, but I have toured the southern border, south of San Diego, south of Tucson, in McAllen, Texas, and I don't think we need a wall completely across our southern border.
Let me ask you this. Given the extensive tour of the region that you've done, and we haven't, unless you've done some that I don't know about, John Berman, is there any place that you have seen where a wall is a good use of taxpayer money right now?
I leave that up to security experts. I am not a security expert. Perhaps there are places, but I don't think we need it across the entire southern border. But I point out that since President Trump has been in office, the numbers coming from the other side have been reduced significantly. And so I think a discussion on border security is in the national interest of the United States.
All right, one other thing we may get from the White House this week is some clarity on a tax cut proposal, including, we believe, a huge cut in the corporate tax rate, all the way down to 15%. Now, I know you support tax cuts. I think you even support corporate tax cuts, but you're also a deficit hawk, a fierce deficit hawk. Now, unless the White House explains how they'll make up the lost revenue in this tax cut, could you support it?
I think 15% may be aspirational, John, and I'm not sure we can go down to 15%. I certainly want to see corporate taxes decreased. I'm not sure we can go down to 15% for the reasons that you have suggested.
But is it a little bit more than that? I mean, you're a guy, as John was schooling me this morning on, that your office actually sends back the extra money each year, operating funds, to Treasury. I mean, you hate debt and deficits. This, according to the Tax Policy Center, if we see a 15% corporate tax rate instituted and you have, the AMT gone, you're going to have $2.4 trillion in lost revenue. It's going to cost $2.4 trillion over the next decade. Can you live with that?
Thank you, Poppy, for pointing out that I return taxpayer funds from my account. I am a deficit hawk, and I'm not sure we can go to 15%. But I do think we should reduce corporate tax rates, and perhaps we can therefore attract some of the profits from abroad that are now frozen abroad, and I think that that would benefit the Treasury. But I certainly agree with the point that you and John are making, that 15% might be too low.
Last question, because we have to let you go, sir. The health care bill, the idea to repeal and replace Obamacare, you opposed it as it was discussed before. Has anything come up in the discussions that makes you more likely to support it going forward?
The answer to that is no. I've seen nothing that makes me want to support it based upon the fact that I want to preserve the protections regarding pre-existing conditions, John. But I would encourage our Democratic colleagues to come to the table, because I do think the exchanges are not in the best of shape. And I would hope that Democrats could come to the table and we could negotiate in a bipartisan fashion to strengthen the system, purchase of policies across state lines, tort reform, for example. But the current discussion, I do not think, preserves what I would like to see preserved regarding pre-existing conditions.
All right, Congressman Leonard Lance, tight spending member from the state of New Jersey. Great to have you with us, sir. We really do appreciate your time. A lot of activity on Capitol Hill.